Now the first thing you want to check on your micrometer is make sure that you know whether you're reading an inch or a metric micrometer. This one is a 0 to 1 inch micrometer, and it's reading to the nearest 0.001 or the nearest thousandths of an inch. Let's take this step by step. Since there's no dial or anything on here, instead we read these scales. Let's get used to reading the scales, and what we'll do is first of all just look at the scale on the barrel or the sleeve. I'm going to just call it the barrel of the micrometer, but this is the barrel scale, and what we've got here is it's an inch micrometer, and so it goes from 0 to 1 inch. So if we go all the way out, notice that this scale is reading 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. Each one of these marks is a tenth of an inch. So let's look at that scale in a little bit more detail. We'll just look at the first 0.2 inches on this scale. So as that thimble turns all across the barrel, it displays more and more of this scale. So for instance, here we would be at 0.1 inches would be showing. So our answer would be somewhere between 0.1 and 0.2. So we need to find out about these intermediate marks here. So what is each one of these intermediate marks worth? Well, if this is 0.1, now on the scale it doesn't actually say it, but I'm just going to draw a little point in there so I can keep that in my mind. This means 0.1, and this is half of that. So this would be 0.05 to this point. And then of course this would be a quarter of a tenth. This would be 0.025, 0.025 to that mark. This mark is 0.05. This mark would be 0.075. If I go ahead and draw an extra 0 on there, it makes a little bit more sense. This is 25, 50, and 75. So as these tick off, I'm going to remember to count by 25 for each mark. Kind of like counting with quarters, but the decimal place is in a different place. So this would be 025, 050, 075, 0.1, or if I wanted to keep my decimal places, this 0.100. That might help me to keep track of things. So 25, 50, 75, 100, if we're thinking in terms of thousandths of an inch, which machinists tend to do. Okay, so I'm going to cover up part of this as if it were being displayed on a micrometer, and I'm going to put it right there. Our reading is something greater than 0.125 because we have that much showing. The question is, how much more? In other words, we know that we're between these two marks, but how far in between are we? And that's going to come from this next scale, the scale that's on the thimble. This is the thimble, the part that rotates around. Now, we know that between each of the small marks on the barrel scale is 0.025. But what do these marks represent? What is each mark? Well, each time around with this thimble is one mark on the barrel scale. So each time around we move forward a mark. You'll notice that they're graduated from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, 20, all the way around to 25, and then it starts back at 0. Okay, so once around this is 25 somethings. Okay, if we remember that each of these is 025, okay, then that other scale, the scale on the thimble, it's reading thousandths of an inch. So when I move from one mark to the next, that's 0.001. From one mark to the next, I add a thousandths, and you can just count them up here. There's 0.001, 0.002, 3, 4, 5 thousandths, 6 thousandths. So what we'll do is we'll count up to the last mark that's showing, and then we'll read on the scale how many thousandths to add to that. So we read up on the scale for however many of these are showing, and then we'll add to it what the thimble scale is showing. Okay, so what we do first of all is we see where we are along the barrel scale, and then we'll read on the thimble scale. Now there should be a horizontal line on your instrument and that's showing you where to read this thimble scale. So what's the reading on this micrometer? Well, we know that it's greater than 0.1. We even know that it's greater than 0.125. So let's go ahead and write that down, and then we'll add to it. So this is 0.125, and we need to know what to add to that 0.125, and we'll read from this scale, and we'll see that we're going to add 3 thousandths. This is 0.003. So we'll add that to our 0.125, and we'll get 0.128. So that's the reading on this scale, 0.128. Okay, this is an actual micrometer, and it's reading the same reading that we just found, 0.128. Now you'll notice on this scale that mark is just barely showing, and back here, you know, when do we count that mark? That's a big issue. The thing is, you count the mark as soon as you go past 0. So if you've got a small number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know that the mark is new and it's just now showing, and so you count it. If you've got a really high number, that means that the mark is not yet showing. You're still running off of the old mark, and it's aging and aging until we roll around to 0. So right now it's not showing, and now it is showing. Okay, I mean, it's showing either way, but we don't count it until it's on this side of 0. Okay, let's try another one. Let's try this one. Now we see that there are 3 marks showing past the 0.1. Let's do it up here in this scale so we can see it a little bit better. So we've got 0.1, and remember, you can put that there in your mind. That's 0.1, and we know that we have that, so we can go ahead and write that down. And then we add 025, 050, 075. So this is really 0.175 plus something, and we'll worry about the something in just a minute. So 0.175 plus the something off of this thimble scale. Now, what's the something? 11, 12, 13. We don't have to worry about whether or not this mark is showing. It's obviously showing. There's not half a mark showing, and we're not close to the 0 mark on the thimble scale. So we know that this is 0.175, and we add this many thousandths of an inch. So this is 0.013 that we'll add. And this is 8 and 8 and 1. So 0.188 inches. That's the reading on this micrometer.